Hey guys, welcome back. It's Mark from Jazz Guitar Lessons. And in this quick mini podcast, again, I want to answer the question why we learn jazz. And you may be listening to this or watching some contents on YouTube, including my content, or going over to TrueFire and seeing how many jazz classes there are. And I'll give you a short and concise answer. Jazz is the style, and I hesitate to call it a style of music. Jazz is the thing we study in order to make everything else easier and faster. That's it. Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Mark, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe. So you may be a funk player, and a strong one at that. You may be a pop or folk player, a blues or rock player, and you may hit a wall, like get stuck in a rut. And I can pretty much guarantee that if you do get on board jazz studies, it will unlock a whole bunch of things. And not because jazz is superior in any regards, but because melodically, harmonically, and rhythmically, jazz will push the boundaries a bit more. And it makes it easier. And I've done it for myself. I'll tell you my personal little life story. Really wanted to pursue music further. And I could say a rocker and shredder. I had some, progressive rock sensibilities, and that was my late teenage. And eventually I went like, yeah, okay, I want to take the plunge and I want to do things right. Okay, fine. I can grab John Petrucci, guitarist in Dream Theater. I can do his rock discipline book and learn all the scales. I could read Steve Vai's blog, or I could do what the guys tell me to do, like Segovia scales or sweep picking arpeggios. And I can watch Yngwie Malmsteen and go, yeah, he plays fast. That's pretty cool, right? And then I encountered more like mature mentors and musicians that had been around, that played important gigs, that played with big bands and in choirs, and musicians that did like small cocktail type of gigs, like corporate events, and jazz original artists, like people that would compose and tour and play their own music on different instruments. And basically the message I had was, look, kid, if you want to do music, like you gotta either study classical, and it would be preferable that you start at age 5 or 10 and you get serious lessons from an early age on guitar, which I had not done. So this sort of eliminated that issue. Or you do jazz. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, I don't really like jazz. I remember hearing jazz and thinking it sounds off, right? There's a lot of wrong notes. It seems like it's going nowhere. I don't really hear it. And then later on, I realized it's almost like there was colors in it that I couldn't really see yet. So that was the MO for pushing music further. Because if you want to go to college or university, or if you want to take any kinds of lessons, you don't need to become a jazz player and grab an arch top, but you should at least learn these concepts because they will make you progress much faster. You'll understand harmony. You'll be able to accompany in different situations. You'll be able to memorize song forms. Your sense of rhythm and time is going to get better. You're going to hear more. You're going to be able to write charts. You're going to write. I'm like, oh, well, that's a fair deal. Instead of just studying every new Dream Theater record that comes out or transcribing Marty Friedman's, solos, I could just go and study jazz. It's been done before. Oh, look at that. Berkeley has done that like since the 70s. Pretty cool. Right. So I did. The thing with me is that I forgot to get back to the other styles. Sure, I did some indie rock gigs with like pretty big venues. That was awesome. I played with singers. I played in funk bands. I played like strictly blues rock gigs as well. And I was hired for anything and everything that wasn't really classical, like weddings and whatever, which was fun. Uh, and I still did that, but for me, I got into jazz as a passion. I got passionate about jazz, and I sort of became a jazz instructor, and that got the best of me. However, for most guys that learn music, they can go through the college level and just learn jazz for the benefits of it as a springboard, and then keep their own musical endeavors that are not strictly jazz, not strictly speaking improvised music. And that's how I got into jazz. That's a really fair way to go about it. So that's the short answer to why we learn jazz. Now, uh, here's a process for learning it that I laid out on the website. It's on the blog, jazzguitarlessons.net/process. That's it. It's a long document. And again, mind you, you don't need to buy an archtop and want to sound like George Benson and do bebop lines all the time. You could keep to your own stuff. But if you have an urge to improve, you have this willingness to go, I want to get better. I want to sound better. I want to hear better. Jazz is probably the way to go. Unless, of course, you go the other route. That's the classical route. And again, I just want to be sure I'm not sounding like a jazz purist. There are things that happen in not jazz that are really interesting. I mean, artistically, and I mean, with the lyrics and the showmanship it requires and the harmonies, like there's a lot of really cool stuff, like a lot of it. But it's not because jazz is superior. Again, it's because it will have a larger frame of reference so that the study of it will make any player basically encounter more of the complex rhythms, more of the complex harmonies, more of certain traditions, the things we do in music that stem from jazz. It's been really codified. So it's like learning a language. I think there could be like language parallels again, but it's a really, really good way to learn the musical alphabet, basically. Not to say it's just theory, not to say it's just playing standards, not to say like you need to do the Freddie Green and get an archtop or trying to sound like West Side. None of that. Hey guys, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode so far and you're interested in taking your jazz guitar playing to the next level, please reach out to us. We've helped thousands of guitarists improvise on standards at a level they didn't even think was possible. So link in description or visit jazzguitarlessons.net to start today. Okay, back to the episode. So speaking of process, on the page at jazzguitarlessons.net/process, there is 7 basic steps. I have sort of moved the needle on that process a bit by working with hundreds more students in the past about 3 years. And I summarize it to 5 steps. So there's really no excuse. And the process is to discover standards and to put them in your own repertoire list. It's a no-brainer. It's segmented. It's simple, not easy. Again, the steps are clearly laid out. It can't be explained any simpler, any further than this. It's simple, not easy, right? And the easy is the shedding of the understanding what's happening. So, what's a simple process? Stage 1, looking only at staple voicings. Look it up. It's totally for free. It's on the Jazz Guitar Fellowship. You can download this. It's on 2 sheets of paper. There are chords, major, minor, dominants, and the other ones. Again, major, minor, dominants, and the other ones. With root on the 6th string and root on the 5th string guitar, the ones that are the most handy for jazz. You're not playing, bar minor chords anymore. You're not playing the basic 7ths. You start with 9ths and 13ths. It's all there. I call them the staples. So step 1, through any tune that you choose. Of course, you will do Autumn Leaves first because it's a rite of passage. And then you'll do probably Summertime, stuff like that. All the things you are, Stella by Starlight Red, the classic ones for education. Then you put these staples over the form of the song out of time. Rubato. Strum the chord once. Go to the next one, next one, next one. Make sure there's a big sound and everything's clear and you're golden. That's it. That's step 1. Step 2, I call the conveyor belt. So ensuring that I can play these voicings over the time that passes by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Or if it's a waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, whatever, right? So that I can stick to the form. I love to use backing tracks for that matter. Often I use iReal Pro, right? It's pretty straightforward. Sorry, noisy car passing by. So after I can have the chord voicings, 1 chord per chord symbol, and I can perform them in time, then the 3rd step, and yeah, it's funny it comes in 3rd, right, is to look at the melody and be able to play it and also do a mini arrangement or mini version of it. I hesitate to call it chord melody because people think like Joe Bass chord melody, but no, it can be done as what we call a thin chord melody. There's a video interview with Bill Frisell, which I recommend you find, where he talks about holding the melody down and says, basically I just do the melody and then I do whatever I can outside of the melody, which may mean I wind up with really strange fingerings for chords, but I don't play a chord for every melody note. I don't try to be Joe Pass. That's Bill Frisell speaking. Wow. And then I had the same with an interview with John Scofield. Said the same thing. Sort of play the melody, make sure it's there, and then tinker around to do what's possible to accompany it, right? So that's your third step. So far, you're able to accompany out of time with the staple voicings. You're able to take this to the conveyor belt with the staple voicings. And in the third step, you're able to play your song so people would recognize it. Like, all right, you're playing Autumn Leaves. You're not doing a naked single string version. You're doing sort of a single string with some chords underneath. And by the way, there's 50 of those arrangements free on the Jazz Guitar Fellowship, link in description. They're in the vault, or called the Standard Essentials. They're all fully arranged. They're all in SoundSlice. Some of them are more challenging than others, but go take a look. It's free, guys. It's just log in. It's totally free. So after your third step, in the fourth step, you will make the changes. And there's several crucial approaches to make the changes, but at least you can avoid running a bunch of scales and arpeggios for no reason in that stage, and just focus on target notes. In crucial terms, the first target note you should do is the third degree. So if it's a C major chord, you do C, D, E, and that's your target, and you're done. There's several ramifications, several methods for doing that. Again, see the content on the blog and website and on the fellowship. It's important to do it really well so that we can hear the changes, and this sort of informs your improvisation. And then step 5, simply wrap it up, jam in a jam session setting with other musicians, or again, using my jam session tracks or iReel or any YouTube jam session jam track you have with a band. Play some accompaniment, some form of the melody, and some improv, and then you're golden. Make sure you stick to the form, and that's it. So that 5-step process, I recommend people in my programs do on at least 5, 10, preferably 15 songs, even before considering the rest. So you see that to become a better player, it's even if you're a rock or a bluesman, it's pretty simple. Like it's not easy, but it's pretty simple. It's like, do these things on these tunes, do systematically the same things on each of the tunes. So you hear the tempo, you hear the rhythms, you see chords pass by, you get to encounter 2-5-1s all the time, you get to use your blues licks, you get to, right? Like all of that accumulates. And even if you don't have the intention of becoming a jazz player, you can still use that, which is the topic of this podcast, which is why we learn jazz. Why do we learn jazz? Well, we learn jazz for the benefits that this process gives us. And of course, if you're more intermediate and advanced, the next steps like 6 and 7 are basically going deeper in the comping side, like an advanced way of comping these staples, and of work on lines and flat 9s and flat 13s and inversions and sharp 11s and whatever. There's a method for that in step 6. And then there's a method for going deeper with the improv, with the single note solo in step 7, which, yes, we start to encounter the scales, we start to encounter the arpeggios, we do all of that beautiful work. But again, we do it on the repertoire list that we built. We simply use All the Things You Are, Installed by Starlight, and Summertime, and Solar, and I don't know, Wayne Shorter tunes, and whatever. We use that only as a lab to test out our ideas and skills. So it's sort of in a way, it's a game of chess. I dislike comparing jazz guitar and learning of jazz to a game of chess, because people try to memorize stuff. They try to memorize the openings, and they try to plug and play scales and go like, look, I play the right scale in the right place. Why doesn't it sound good? It's like, well, there's a whole method. There's a whole how to do that. And if you do that how well, if you follow a process like the one I've outlined, you will get tremendous results. Like I have lived it to a point that coming back to that top 40s gig felt like a breeze. I'm sitting at 28 years old, and I do this full like 3-hour set with an interlude in the middle. And I'm like, oh shoot, I'm playing like 18 rock tunes, and I have like memorized them all, and I'm locking in with the drummer. I know all my parts. I know I took some solos, of course, and everything's flowing smoothly. How come? Well, it's because I've done a bunch of jazz, and I'm not playing jazz on the gig, but the skill set required to do jazz properly, quote unquote, or at least being confident and in an okay fashion, it just fueled my skills as a general guitarist. So if that's your intention, again, head over to jazzguitarists.net. There's plenty of trainings, free stuff. There's paid programs as well, which you can find out by looking in the description. But this is really a worthwhile endeavor to go, you know what? Instead of reading tabs and just trying to learning Louis Malmsteen solos or whatever you're doing, just cracking the door to another realm, which is jazz, can have a tremendous positive impact on your playing. On that note, I'll let you go. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe to get notified when there's new episodes. But also, if you give a review, like a 5-star review, and you leave comments, it really helps the algorithm to rank me higher and also helps me know which kind of stuff you like to hear in the podcast. On that note, I'll see you next time. All right, enjoy your day. Take care.